Hello, my friend.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing well. I am very excited to talk to you about these books, especially to talk to you about Not Done Yet, because as of the date that we're talking, tomorrow is its book birthday.
Tomorrow, I cannot wait.
I brought out my Catalyst for Change sweatshirt.
Nice. Oh my goodness, where did you get that?
Oh, where did I got this a while back. I think it was a Philly company, like Philadelphia Printworks, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was
I like
Philadelphia
that.
Printworks, Black owned.
Okay. I'm gonna be looking for that because I need to be repping these next several months as I talk about this book.
So, as you all probably already know, but I'm just gonna say I'm here with Tameka Fryer-Brown, incredible picture book author and also incredible member of the Brown Bookshelf family. I'm so glad to be here talking with you about these books today.
Thank you for being willing to celebrate my book birthdays with me.
Yes.
That's a new thing for me to say, book birthdays. I know some of you all are used to having more than one book come out at once, but this has been something for me. Really, really cool. It's been a challenge in some ways, but a great blessing in others. So I'm excited.
Well, you have blessed us, and these two books are so different, like they're for different times, different moods. They're so different. Did you work on them both at the same time?
I did not. Let's see, 12 Dinging Doorbells, which came out in October 18th. I started writing that, in 2017, in the winter holiday season, just after Thanksgiving. And I had my full fill of the, what's the hashtag Thanksgiving with Black families? Do you follow it? Yeah. Okay, that's my thing every, around that time of year. So I'd, been full and, happy with the holidays and following that. And we were getting ready to go to Miami for Christmas. And I was just, I was in that Jingle Bells mood, and the idea just struck me. I wanted to capture this as a picture book, for kids.
Yeah.
So, that's how the idea for that was born. And then the Shirley Chisholm book, I can't remember exactly what year it was off the top of my head, but that one marinated with me for several years because I didn't think nonfiction, was my lane. You know what I mean? I didn't. I did not think, I honestly didn't think that I was capable of pulling it off.
Oh, Tameka.
Truth. And
I understand, but you more than pulled it off. But well, I understand the feeling.
Yeah. It took some time to try to figure out how to enter the story.
That was going to be a question. Yeah. Okay. How you did enter the story. I'm curious. You talked about in your author's note about the parallels between Shirley Chisholm and your grandmother. And I'd love to hear a little bit about that. And then sort of how maybe that or what else sort of got you going and started.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, I, of course, did a lot of research on her, right? I wanted to kind of get a sense of who she was as a human being, beyond the facts and the firsts and all of that. And once I did, of course, I read her autobiography. I read another biography about her. And then I watched, I think the first thing I watched video was the documentary by Charlotte Lynch. And what is it, 72 Chisholm
72.
Chisholm 72. Thank you. And so that, and then watching other videos, I finally got a sense of who she was as a person. And that's when I recognized that all those traits that she had in common with my own grandmother. That no nonsense, like, we're not, going for any of the nonsense at all. She didn't stand for that. She stood up and she spoke out for what she believed in, even when and often it meant that she had to do so when standing alone. You know, speaking out, being the only one in the room to say whatever. She just had that strength and that boldness, and you know, and my grandmother was that way. You know, they were very different in that Mrs. Chisholm was, you know, a scholar and highly educated, and my grandmother did not go past the 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, there was just still that sameness I saw and I felt in their spirits, and so that motivated me to really want to figure out a way to pull this off. And then I guess more craft wise, I ultimately decided to do what I do best, or what I think I do best, which is to tell the story as a poem. And you know, and so once I made that decision,
yeah,
then it was a bit easier, you know, to get going and to, I guess, kind of pull it off.
You really did. And I can see that sort of that poetry in it, and it makes it such a lovely read aloud. Like, it's a powerful read aloud, but also just really beautiful and lyrical. Like the flow is really nice.
Thank you. I mean, that is something that I try to focus on. You know, as picture book authors, you know, we're always reading our work aloud as we, you know, go through the writing process and the editing process. And I do want the stories that I write to be viewed by the people who are reading them, often adults, as lyrical and easy, that the words kind of tumble off the tongue, and it's an enjoyable read aloud for the adults as well as the kids, you know. Yeah, because I think when you write in poetry, a lot of times when we write in poetry, it's a really sensory rich experience for the kid too, you know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, poetry is my jam. Not that I consider myself a poet, but poetry is my jam.
Oh, Tameka, you're a poet. You're a poet.
Well, thank you.
It's interesting when I think about, I remember when I first learned about Shirley Chisholm and like saw her personality, and she did very much remind me of my own Jamaican aunties and grandmother, that no nonsenseness and that just like plain spokenness.
Yes.
And she never, it strikes me how at no point did she kind of switch it up to try and like cute herself up to win, like she didn't change herself to go forward. And I'm wondering how that message you feel could impact young readers, what you sort of drew from that. Was there anything that surprised you as you were doing your research about her?
Well, let me go with the first one before I forget it.
Yeah.
I think that, see, I already forgot it. This is me at the end of the day.
Oh, please.
But what surprised me about her, a lot of stuff, like I didn't know that she spoke fluent Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she learned it, she minored in Spanish, and she became more fluent in it during her days as an educator, because a lot of the families that she served, they were Spanish speaking. So she became fluent in Spanish and focused on that so that she could communicate and dialogue with them. But that also helped her when she was running for office.
Yeah.
You know, it offered her a way to connect to more of the voters in her district. So that was surprising to me. She was a pianist.
Yeah.
You know, she played piano, classical piano.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. She was great at impressions. if you watch
Oh, I
some of
didn't
the
know that.
videos of her, and she's like doing impressions of the people in Congress that gave her all kinds of drama and trouble, and she was so funny. And so all of those things just about her personality were surprising, and she loved to dance. I
Yeah.
found out they said she could close down the dance floor. So yeah, just all of those things that make her feel human to us more than
Yeah.
just the iconic trailblazer. Those were
Yeah.
cool things, interesting things, and surprising things that I learned. Now, what was that first thing you asked me that I forgot about?
Because it was such a convoluted question. It was kind of related to basically, her slogan, unbought and unbossed, that slogan that she had. And she was who she was, and she did not change who she was in different circumstances, which is sort of a very political thing to do, a thing that politicians do. It's almost like par for the course. Like that's
exactly. And that's what made her the maverick. You're talking about a maverick, we like to throw that label around.
Yeah.
She really was. She was not easily controlled by the political powers that be.
Yeah.
And that was something that she would communicate. It was something of an obstacle. It made her path a bit harder, but she would not have had it any other way, because she was not trying to, her ultimate goal was not to gain political power for political power's sake. Exactly. She was trying to help, her constituents. Yeah. She had real integrity. She had a real purpose and a point to her service. And so to kind of just go with the political flow and to bend and yield in ways that would not have served her constituents, she wasn't about that. She knew how to negotiate, she knew how to deal, but she was not going to be dealing just to gain power.
Yeah.
Her negotiations was about, okay, what can I do to achieve the objectives that I've been sent here to do? So yeah, it was just the core of who she was. I don't think she could have been any other way. She wouldn't have been happy being anybody other than her bold, direct self.
Yeah. I think about how even at the time during her political career, she must have inspired especially young Black girls. And I wonder, when you think it's been 50 years, so now, what do you think about now, like in the current political moment, with all of the different messages that our children get, especially our girls get? What do you think they can draw from her story? And okay, another two-parter.
No, let me get my pen to write this down. No.
And well, actually, why don't you just answer that first, because the other one's long.
Okay, thank you, friend, because help your sister out. Okay, so I think as many woman figures as we can present to our girls who they can see standing in their own truths, being themselves, believing in themselves, in their ideas, their beliefs, having a sense of conviction that what they think and believe is true, is legit, and that they don't need to necessarily seek validation from things that they've already analyzed and determined to be truth, right? So seeing examples of women who are strong and steadfast in their beliefs, and who are bold and who are willing to speak up and speak out, like I always say, Mrs. Chisholm did, even when she had to do it alone. those kinds of models, I think, are vital for our children to see right now. Critical thinkers.
Yeah.
Shirley Chisholm was a thinker, a brilliant mind. And that is what we need. Those images and those folks, that's what we need to be presenting to our young women, and not just our young men,
all of our kids,
all of our kids,
all of our kids.
Absolutely. As an example, I think that if that's something that I feel is really in jeopardy, is critical thought these days. And so not only figures like Shirley Chisholm, but even kind of the way that I have been writing some stories that are forthcoming. We as creatives, as authors, as book creators, it's important for us to write our stories in such a way that invite critical thought.
Yep.
And not necessarily spell every single thing out for our kids, but encourage them to kind of think, what's the next logical step? What does this mean? How does this apply to my life, my future? What do I think about it? And also as educators, we have to engage our kids in that way. It's not necessarily a right or wrong answer when we're reading these stories. So, I mean, I went on a critical thought importance tangent, but
it's not a tangent.
I've been thinking about that a lot. And so I think Mrs. Chisholm is a really great example of somebody who was a critical thinker, and that guided her agenda.
Yeah. No, it's not a tangent at all. And it's just, I've been thinking about it a lot too lately. And I think about when we write, and it's a good lesson for us as storytellers to really write to leave room for the reader, to understand that we're not writing just for ourselves, that we're writing to leave room for the reader. And they may come up with things that we haven't thought of or never would have imagined. And that kind of providing that kind of environment through literature, through reading, through engaging with books it just feels even more vital than ever.
I agree. Absolutely.
And you kind of answered the other question. I was gonna ask, I mean, you really did answer. I was just gonna ask, because people tend to think that, young children or children who are what they might consider picture book age, even though I think picture books are for everyone and for every age.
Agreed.
They don't know anything about politics, not involved in politics, which to me just doesn't seem right, because one, they're in our world and they hear, they see, they're affected by everything that happens. And so why do you think maybe that it is important for young readers not to learn not just about figures and people like Shirley Chisholm, but to learn about engagement in the political process, about civic engagement from a very young age?
Yeah, I think it's really important for us not to wait too long to engage our kids in topics, political topics, even social topics, because there's a period when they are in pre-K, young elementary schools, where they are, for lack of a better word, malleable, impressionable. And so a lot of sensitive periods there. And so if we can, at that point, ingrain in their minds and their hearts the importance of making a difference, right, in their local communities, in their broader communities, and in this world. And one of the ways that they can do that is by civic engagement, right? Voting. It's not too early to teach them about the voting process, to teach them why it's important. And, of course, you breaking it up in little, bites depending on their age, but you start young and you continue to add more and more information on there to, what you're teaching them. But to get started really young, to let them know that voting matters, that their voice matters, that in this particular country, voting and their voice are closely connected. And if they want to make an impact on the way the country is run and the way we treat each other and the way, people can get jobs and get houses and just have a better life, for us to vote for people who are focused on doing those same things are really, really important. That's a really important thing. And if we don't, then people will get in who don't care. You break it down really simple in ways that they can understand. But the earlier we start doing that, the more it just becomes an innate part of who they are as human beings, to realize and recognize their responsibility in that way. And the longer you wait, the less that's ingrained. That's true about civic responsibility. That's true about treating our fellow man, the way we want to be treated. Is true about a lot of things that I think in the past people have wanted to just protect kids from, when we're not really, right? Like you said, they're getting messages all around, at school, in the media, everywhere, even overhearing our conversations, they hear, So,
Yeah, I agree. And I just think, especially when we model and teach that civic engagement is a part of daily life, and it's not even just like a big election every 4 years or something like that, but it really is a part of daily life. And it's a part of understanding how to be a community and how to work and live and be together in a positive, productive way.
Absolutely. And that's what Mrs. Chisholm did, right?
Exactly.
And I think we show that in the book, like from her being a young kid and recognizing unfairness around her.
Exactly.
And starting to think then, what could I do to make a difference? She didn't know then, but we see her evolution. We see that desire and that drive that started when she was a kid, and how it manifested itself throughout her life and her activism and her political engagement. So,
And also her sort of figuring out how she was going to do that. Like, she knew that she wanted to serve, that she wanted to do some good and make positive change. She thought about being a teacher. She and I think that's also an important message for readers to show that, everybody finds their own way
absolutely
to doing that. And you can maybe go one way for a little while and then take another direction, and all of it counts and all of it matters.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said that any better. And had she never entered the political arena because of who she was and because of her innate qualities, she was going to make a difference. I mean, she did make a difference as an educator. She started out as a preschool teaching assistant, because she was so small when she graduated, and she was Black. And so, it was hard for her to get her foot in the door to even be like a full-fledged educator. But she went from that situation to running, multiple large centers and writing curriculum for the entire citywide system. So she was making a difference. She was going to be a difference maker no matter what path she chose. And I think that's another message that kids can get to learn. Like you said, no matter your path, there's an opportunity for you to make a difference. So do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, before we go, I want to ask, this is a question that I always get about picture books, and it's about the art and the illustrator and sort of how you work with the artist. And I know the amazing Nina Cruz did just such beautiful dynamic work on this book. How did you work together? Did you communicate in the process? Did you see everything sort of after it was done? How did that go?
Yeah, so it was a really old school process, and we did not interact creatively while it was going on. So, you know, I got my words, my text approved, and then she started with the illustrations. There maybe have been there were a couple of times when she might have had a question about something in the text, and I might have had a comment about something in the art, but we went through the traditional, you know, the editor and the art director to do that. But what I would do is when I would get the sketches or some finished art, I would send her like a little Instagram message like, "Girl, I love it." I was like, you know, something like that. And she'd be like, "Oh, thank you." So I was complimenting her because I really did love the art. But when it came to like the actual work itself, we went the traditional route. I think it's easier because if you do have questions or, you know, critical comment or something like that, I don't know, it's just like when you have an agent and you can communicate with your editor about all the good kind stuff, but when it's time to deal with the challenges or with the something that might be touchy, you go through your agent. And I think it works well oftentimes to do that as well. That having been said, I know more and more creatives, authors, and illustrators are working together, you know, throughout the process. I haven't had that experience yet. So still doing it the old school way.
Well, it works.
Yeah. It's working so far.
It works. It is a beautiful, beautiful book. Congratulations, Tameka.
Thank you.
I'm just so glad that kids will have this and adults will have this to engage with young readers. It's a gift.
Thank you. And I have to say, right, you know, I know our time is up, but I want to point this out is that this particular picture book biography of Shirley Chisholm really is accessible for the youngest picture book readers, you know, and it's also the age range is, I think it's like 5 to 10. And it's really accurate because it's accessible to the young ones, but because it's poetry, of course, that's going to be accessible to the older ones. And then we've got this really extensive timeline and back matter and bibliography and additional resources. And so it's kind of like a one-stop shop for your older elementary school students as well as your middle grade students to get that
exactly.
Yeah,
no, it really is. I was excited because I was thinking like, oh, this would be such a, especially like around 4th, 5th grade when you start doing like these biographical reports and projects. It's such a great mentor text for how to tell a life story in a way that's accessible, that's easy to understand, that the writer can feel like, oh, they can be creative. They don't have to just be sort of like so-and-so was born on this day and then this, and then that's the end. Like it's an incredible mentor text for like all different ages, as you said. Yes.
Not done yet. My very first nonfiction work. Hopefully it won't be my last.
It can't be your last because Not Done Yet. The Story of Shirley Chisholm is a beautiful, powerful story by Tameka Fryer-Brown, illustrated by Nina Cruz, and it is out November 1st. Oh,
you'll get it.
Okay.
Thanks, Thanks.
One little question.
Okay.
About 12 dinging doorbells before we go. One last question.
Yes.
And it's very important.
Okay.
All right. Be serious.
Okay.
Do you make mac and cheese?
I do make mac and cheese.
All right. What do you put in your mac and cheese?
If I told you, I have to lock you up and throw away the key.
Okay.
No, really.
I respect
honestly,
it. I respect it.
It's my husband's recipe.
I respect it.
No, he's that kind. I don't really care. It's very simple. I'm gonna say this. It's really very simple. It's the kind of recipe that if you're tired of being assigned the paper plates and napkins when you go to the cookout or the dinner, you can make this. It's really simple. And they're gonna say, you made this? Okay. You can. Okay, so it's good. It's
all right.
And it's good.
All right.
I'll tell you what it is off.
All camera. Right. I trust you.
Yeah.
I do make my mac and cheese, and then I'm very particular about other people's mac and cheese.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're getting. Like sweet potato pie. I don't make the sweet potato pie, but I am super finicky about the sweet potato pie because of my grandmother and hers.
Yeah, I make. So I won't say all the cheeses that I put in my mac and cheese.
Okay.
But I will say that there is this one ingredient that I always have arguments about that I never use.
Okay.
That other people like to use.
Okay, and I know what you're saying. I know what that ingredient is.
You know what it is.
I know what it is, and I'm gonna tell you, I use it. But I don't use a lot of it.
All right.
I use it for the purpose of binding because my kids won't eat macaroni and cheese with eggs in it.
Well, that was the ingredient, was the eggs.
Oh, okay. Well, then I had another ingredient to use in the place of that.
Okay. See, okay.
Okay.
See, I knew you wouldn't let me down. You can't write a book like Not Done Yet. You can't write a book like 12 Dinging Doorbells. You can't write books like My Cold 11-Pound Mood, like messing up the title. And I see it right behind you too. You can't write books like that and put eggs in your macaroni and cheese. I'm sorry to anybody who puts eggs in their macaroni and cheese. I apologize.
Yeah. But you and me.
Yeah, we're here.
Yes.
Thank you, Tameka.
Thank you. Till next time.
Till next time. I appreciate you and I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, sis.